What's up, world? Welcome to The Positive Truth, uplifting and positive news for a more progressive society.
Here at The Positive Truth, we're trying to bring awareness, empowerment, inspiration, optimism, and understanding to communities everywhere.
Tim, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Doing great, especially after we've been doing these positive news podcasts Monday and Wednesday.
And they've been turning out great.
All kinds of positive news. You should check them out. Today we're talking about Black History Month, but where can you find The Positive Truth at, Tim?
And you can follow us on Facebook at The Positive Truth Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter at TPT_podcast, iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, and SoundCloud.
You know it. All we need you to do, you're never going to pay for this podcast, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave us a review on iTunes, 5-star review, write something, help us out tremendously. We're just trying to spread love to the community, have more positive people that are helping out in the community come on this podcast, keep bringing you all the uplifting news. Today we're talking about Black History Month, and there's so many things to talk about, but we just decided, let's just ask 3 questions of Black leaders, what we would want to ask them. Tim, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
JP, go ahead and start.
So, the first person I would ask is Harriet Tubman. All of the questions.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like, how did the Underground Railroad work? Like, she was a slave, so how was that? Apparently she got a really bad back injury, got hit in the head, like as a kid, escaped, did 13 missions from Canada, never, ever, ever, no one, like she didn't lose anyone. They called her Black Moses, which is appropriate. She led in the Union Army, led basically a group of soldiers to like free some slaves in the South. So you're a woman during slavery, leading male troops in a battle, and winning. And then after that, you worked out with women's suffrage movement. Like, where's the book? Like, why didn't you write a book? How do you do all this? How do you do all these great things in your life? What am I doing, Tim? I just think what she did in her life is absolutely amazing. And she lived to be like 88. She like doubled lifespan of people at the time.
That's true.
Are we sure she was human? Like,
we're not sure, to be honest. There's no book. That's something you should ask. You should definitely ask.
Like, are you human, Harriet Tubman? I just think she's an amazing person. Everything she did, all the kids, grandkids.
So it's not a question, it's more like a conversation. You definitely would like to have Harriet Tubman.
About any of those subjects.
For sure, for sure.
Like women's suffrage movement in the late 1800s. Like, what was that like?
Man.
What was segregation like after slavery? Like, what was the difference? And then, any of those questions would work.
Good questions. Good questions. And I mean, Harriet Tubman. It's Harriet Tubman. Come on. She's going to be on a $20 bill.
Oh, wait. We have this thing called paper money now.
We didn't have that back then.
Exactly. Like, and you're going to be on it.
Man. Well, man, I'm going to go ahead and start with my next question, or my question. My first question would be to somebody that's still here, Coretta Scott King. The reason I want to ask her a question is because, I mean, she was married to Martin Luther King Jr., and we all know what he's done. I mean, it was just Martin Luther King Day not too long ago, and my question to her would be, how did you hold it together? I mean, throughout all the death threats, and husband's gone 90% of the time, trying to save the world, and you're at home taking care of your kids by yourself. Like, how did you hold it together?
Oh, she was out there with them.
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot of the times for sure, but there was times where she was nowhere to be seen. She had to stay at home and had to answer the phone to death threats. And I want to know how, as a woman, I mean, that's tough, especially back then whenever, you know, women weren't respected at all whatsoever. And you were an African-American woman, how did you hold together during the Civil Rights Movement?
How did anybody hold together?
Man, that's a conversation. It's not even a question anymore. What kind of conversations will we have? We got to change this whole entire episode now. What kind of conversations would you have with your next guest?
Well, mine would be Malcolm X.
Malcolm X.
So, I don't know how much you know about Malcolm X, but after 1963, he left the Nation of Islam. And the Nation of Islam had this idea, like, we don't do politics. So from basically the early 50s to 1963, Malcolm X made all these new temples preach black nationalism. We need to stick together, make our own jobs, make our own school, because there's no way we're going to have equal opportunity.
Right.
But they weren't political at all. So all this, like the March on Washington, they weren't there. Because they refused to be political. And that's actually how he left the Nation of Islam, because he criticized JFK. But after he left, his whole mind state changed for the last year and a half he was alive. It was, we need to work together with other groups. We need to work to make the government better. I still like black nationalism, but like, we need to work with the government to make the world a better place. It's just such a counter switch, the way he had been preaching for the last decade. I want to ask him if he regretted just being so segregated and not being like more into the government, more in policy changes that would have a long-lasting effect.
That's a good question. That was actually almost one of my questions. I stopped myself from asking that question, but I'm glad that you did. Man, I wonder what his answer would be. I really do.
The funny thing is, like, before he died, because he left, he went to Africa, and when he came back, it was just, everyone was trying to kill him. Like, everyone in the Nation of Islam. And his interviews, it wasn't like today where you had a daily news cycle. Sometimes it would be a piece, and then sometimes he was just flip-flopping every day. Like, he had different ideas. He was coming towards something. He never got there. But it was definitely more positive, more uplifting. It was more together. It was less screw everyone over here. It was more
less violent, for sure.
Exactly. And he never got there. It's just, I wonder if he regretted it.
Good question to think on. Well, my next question, it's Rosa Parks. It's a simple question, which I know a lot of people want to ask this question, or wanted to ask this question, or maybe did ask. But obviously, riding a bus for so long, like, how often did you actually want to sit down there before you actually did? Before you had enough and said, you know what, I'm just tired. Like, I want to know how often you actually felt like sitting down. And I mean, I know it's talked about why she sat down. Her feet were hurting. She was tired, and it's understandable. But during the civil rights movement, people seem to forget, especially now in today's age, because a lot of us were just blessed not to have to deal with any type of racism versus what they had to deal with back in the 1950s and 60s.
Oh, there's definitely still racism.
Oh, for sure. But some people are just blind, man. Like, they forget. They just forget and don't realize. And I want to know, like, how often did you think about it? Was it like an everyday thing, or once a week you were just fed up with stuff? I want to know how long did it take her to just be fed up with everything before she actually sat down?
So, I have a semi-answer to this.
I hope you did. I really did when I asked this question.
So, one of the most articulate ways I ever heard, like, explaining being of a different race to someone that was white is, if you're white, you don't think about your race every day. If you're a minority, a person of color, like, you think about your race every single day. It affects everything you do, your clothes, like, oh, I gotta be careful with this police officer over here. Oh, that club might not let me in. Oh, this job might not like me. Oh, this person's intimidating me because I'm black. He's checking his wallet. Like, it affects everything you do to a point to where it's almost second nature to you.
Right.
So I feel like she had to have thought about it every day, right?
Man, I would think that, but then it was just so different back then, where it could have been just a routine, like walk straight through before she started realizing. Because, I mean, for me, just me personally, as I got older, you start realizing more, become more open-minded, and you start noticing things that just aren't right. And when she was young, did she just, hey, I'm supposed to do that? And then when she got older, started questioning it, and then that's whenever, hey, did it build up to that, or was it just something that just happened?
Well, it was definitely a build-up.
Definitely.
But I think she knew from pretty young. I think everyone knew at a young age, like, this isn't right.
I hear that.
So my last person, do you know who Quero Looper is?
No, sir.
So I was going to ask about the sit-ins. So I was like, I couldn't remember which sit-in was first. Was it the Montgomery one, or was it the sit-in at the lunch counter? Couldn't remember the dates. So I Googled it. And it was like significant civil rights sit-ins. And it was listed. And like number 3 was Oklahoma City. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, we live here.
Right.
Have you ever heard about Oklahoma City sit-in?
Never. I'm sitting here like, what's going on, JP?
That's how I felt. So Clara Looper, she led the Oklahoma City sit-ins on a Tuesday afternoon, August 19th, 1958. Her son, daughter, and a group of youth council members segregated the Katz drugstore in downtown Oklahoma City. It's not there anymore, but you know where the Cox Convention Center is?
Yeah.
Okay, it's northwest. So it's basically right where
The Devon building is?
just a little north of Devon.
Okay.
It's right there on that corner, basically.
Okay.
That's where the Katz drugstore is, and they refused her service. The police was called. However, the group was not arrested, but they were met with like hostile, like they were threatened. People threatened to kill them. 2 days later, the Katz corporate management in Kansas City desegregated its lunch counters in 3 states. So from 1958 to 1964, Miss Looper was a major leader to fight to end segregation in Oklahoma. She was actually a school teacher. And like the schools she taught at, they don't even exist anymore. I can't even remember the names. They were out by Spencer.
Okay.
And whenever schools got desegregated, they're like, cause they were like the black schools. They were less, you know, didn't have much. So whenever schools got desegregated, they just got rid of the whole district. And the schools are still there. Some like one burned down in 2012. And basically, she had to get a new job, but she went to teach in Oklahoma State local schools. She, along with the NAACP Youth Council, personally integrated hundreds of restaurants, cafes, theaters, hotels, churches in Oklahoma City, including the Skirvin Hotel, which I worked at.
I was about to say, you were there. Man, you worked there for a while, too.
Yeah.
You
I never heard of this.
I was about to say, you've never heard of it? Well, none of us have, I guess. So.
So my question to her is, like, you did all this, and we're benefits of this.
For sure.
Oklahoma City, and I had no clue who you were. Like, just tell me a little bit about yourself, because I feel like I should have learned this in history class. Like, how many Oklahoma history classes have I had in like elementary school, middle school, college, high school? We never heard about her. So, Clara Looper, like, I just want to know about you. That would be my question, because I feel really uninformed. Someone that had such a positive impact in my life. You know, she's got a statue.
Where?
Kansas.
I gotta Google her after this, man. I have to.
It's like, why is this statue not in Oklahoma?
So who is Clara Looper?
So that's who I would want to talk to. I just think the sit-ins are just amazing, because they started out as 9 kids at a lunch counter, and it led to a massive civil rights movement. Just 9 people doing something positive. What we're trying to do with these positive, uplifting stories.
That's very true. Indeed.
So like, there's a lot of positive people helping out. And all it takes is one. You spark the revolution, and you lead to progressive change. And Clara Looper is one of those people. I never knew about her. So I would just want to ask her about her life, what she all did, more detail.
I hear that. Clara Looper, if you're listening, JP wants to know who you are.
She's lying, man.
Oh, she's not alive. My bad. Well, let me go to my last question. My last question is for MLK. It would be a question for today, actually. Would you be happy that the steps America has taken to get this far? Would you be happy with it, content? I really want to know, would he? Because, yeah, it's different from 1960s, but a lot of people are still unhappy. And a lot of people can see that we're getting blinded versus things that actually changed. And for me, my question would be, is he content with at least what's going on? Because, I mean, back in the 1960s, you wouldn't see a white kid and a black kid and a Mexican kid hanging out, but that's how we grew up, you know? We were going to the same schools, hanging out with each other, going to each other's houses, playing basketball together. And, I mean, is that something that he would be content with, do you think?
I think he would be happy with the progress, but he would see that we still have a long way to go.
I agree with that. That's what I assumed he would think, but at the exact same time, obviously he's Martin Luther King. He was, you know, going to do this the day he died regardless. And my thing is just, with everything that's going on, you know, in politics and social media, all just the racism that's been coming out these past couple of years, especially with the election going on and all that good stuff, how would he feel witnessing America act the way that it's acting now?
Probably wouldn't be happy with it, man.
It's very true. So yeah, man, that would be basically I would like to have a conversation about today's America versus civil rights movement America.
So what would you discuss with like today's America? Would you discuss like massive incarceration, like mass incarceration with our people, like institutional racism, the whole Black Lives Matter movement?
It'd be a little bit of everything. Man, social media would definitely be a topic of discussion because I mean that's a game changer for racism.
I don't know how you would explain the internet to anyone that doesn't have the internet.
I mean, we all had to learn. Our parents had to learn. Did your mom text?
She texts all cool, like
exactly, like
I see you later. I'm like,
but it's the same thing though. Like our parents grew up without the internet. I mean, my mom's almost 70 years old. She had to learn how to text and learn how to use the internet. Heck, she acts like she doesn't use Facebook, but I know she's got one on the low. I mean, he would figure it out for sure.
I just feel like that would take a little while. The acclimation.
I hear you.
Yeah, but it would be interesting to hear his thoughts. I think he would definitely be happy with the progress, but not content at all. Too much discrimination.
For sure.
Him and Obama, that'll be a great conversation.
Man, it would be.
So, speaking of which, I got a great quote I just thought of while you were talking about Martin Luther King to end the episode. It's from Calvin and Hobbes. Do you know what that is?
I think so, actually.
It's like a cartoon.
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
Like a comic book strip. And the comic book strip, like one of the like sayings was, it's funny how day by day nothing seems to change, and then one day you wake up and everything's different. And that's kind of how, like, we're talking about Black History Month. Like, you feel like you're fighting constantly, like, we gotta get better. Women's March on Washington. Black Lives Matter. It's just like, you're just crawling, inch by inch. And it feels like you're not getting anywhere. I feel like things are just getting worse. But actually, one day, we're gonna look around, discrimination is gonna be even lower. That's how it changes. 1965, no one could imagine this. Imagine 50 years from now. But it doesn't change like this. It's like slow crawl. So that's why I thought of that quote.
It's a good quote. Now, the comic book strip is the little guy and the tiger looking thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember it. Man.
Best comic strip ever.
Real talk. Is that what we got for him to JP?
I mean, yeah, but we're just keep on bringing that uplifting news Monday, Wednesday. Please, just give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Give us a rate, leave us a review. That'll push us up so we can have more people knowing about our positive news that we're giving out every single day. We've got a couple of great podcasts coming up, a couple of great interviews. And we're going to keep bringing it. Did I forget anything, Tim?
And just follow us on social media. On Facebook at The Positive Truth Podcast. On Twitter at TPT Podcast, or _podcast. Follow us on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, and SoundCloud.
And if you can't listen to the Monday, Wednesday podcast, just go to our Facebook page. We'll post most of our positive news stories. Hopefully it'll be a way to just uplift your day and a little happy spot on the internet.
Indeed.
Is that it?
I think we're out.
We out.
Stay positive.